So you've worked hard, right? Saved up, maybe put a pretty big chunk of that nest egg into something you figured was, well, secure, something for retirement income.
Yeah, you're picturing those checks rolling in later on, giving you that
E-
security.
Exactly. But then life, it throws that curveball.
Always does, doesn't it?
An emergency pops up, maybe you lose your job, or maybe a family member really needs help, like right now.
And suddenly you need that money you set aside.
And you think, hey, it's my money. Getting it should be easy. But, well, if that money's in a specific kind of annuity here in the U.S., getting it out early, uh-oh.
Yeah, the price tag for early access can be shocking is a good word for it. Really steep.
And we're not just talking about one little fee, are we?
Oh, definitely not. It's off of this whole cascade, charges from the company, taxes from the IRS, maybe even penalties on top of that. It feels like trying to walk through a minefield, especially when you're already stressed about why you need the money.
It's kind of wild how the very structure, the thing designed for long-term safety, actually creates this massive wall if you need the cash sooner.
Absolutely. It's built for the long haul, so accessing it short-term goes against its design. It's not just about the company getting its admin costs back. It really changes your ability to use your own funds when life throws you that curveball.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping right into this pretty confusing and sometimes painful world of annuity surrender charges.
Right. That's the name for the often really high cost you might face if you need to pull money out or just cancel the whole contract before its time is up.
And to figure this out, we've looked at some really good sources. We're talking guidance from places like the Minnesota Attorney General's office, consumer info from Wisconsin's insurance regulator.
Yeah, the WI, OCI, and also financial sites like Gamebridge, Investopedia, Bankrate. Good stuff there.
Our mission today really is to unpack this whole thing. We want to understand exactly what these surrender charges are, why they even exist.
From a company's point of view, sure.
And critically, what's the real financial hit? When you add up the charge, the taxes, those IRS penalties maybe.
And we also need to look at what few options you might actually have if you're stuck and need that money early. Because the options are, well, they're limited and often not great.
Okay, so let's get into it. You put your money away, it's locked up for years, sometimes like over a decade, and if you need it early, boom, fees, taxes, penalties. It sounds pretty intense.
It can be. And the sources really do highlight the risks, especially, it seems, for older folks, seniors, who might have sudden health costs pop up.
Yeah, that seems like a major concern.
Definitely. And we need to be clear, this isn't just theory. We're going to look at some actual pretty stark examples from that Minnesota Attorney General's report. Cases where real people needed their money for unavoidable reasons and got hit hard.
Ooh.
Yeah. So understanding not just what the charges are, but why they can be so damaging when your situation changes. That's crucial for making informed decisions here.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Just a quick refresher on annuities, focusing on what matters for these surrender charges. At a basic level, what is an annuity in this context?
Okay, so fundamentally, an annuity is a contract. You make it with an insurance company, usually. You pay them money, that's the premium, either one big payment or maybe several over time.
Right.
And in exchange, the company promises to pay you back, usually as a series of regular income payments, starting at some point down the road.
And it's different from life insurance, right? Even though an insurance company issues it.
Totally different. The WIOCI source makes that clear. It's not primarily about a death benefit or short-term savings. Its main job is to provide a steady income stream, usually for retirement over the long term.
And that deferred part is key here, isn't it? That's where the surrender charges really bite.
Absolutely. We're mostly talking about deferred annuities today. With these, the income payments don't start right away. They start, well, later, often many years later. So first, there's what they call the accumulation phase. That's when the money you put in sits there and hopefully grows. Often that growth isn't taxed year by year, it's taxed deferred. Then, only after that growth period, the payout phase begins. That's when you actually start getting the income checks. And it's that big gap, that delay between putting money in and getting income out that makes surrender charges such a big deal.
Yeah.
If you try to take money out during that accumulation phase,
Before the income starts.
that's when you run smack into these potential fees.
Got it. And who are the players in this contract? The owner? Annuitant?
Right. The WIOCI lays out the main roles. There's the owner, that's usually you, the person buying it, paying the premiums, holding the rights. You can make withdrawals, surrender it, that stuff.
Okay.
Then there's the annuitant. That's the person whose life the insurance company uses for the calculations and who actually gets the income payments. Often the owner and annuitant are the same person, especially if it's for your own retirement.
Makes sense.
And finally, there's the beneficiary. They get any leftover value or death benefit if the annuitant dies, especially before the payments start or before all guaranteed payments are made.
Okay, solid foundation. Long-term contract, future income, tax-deferred growth in that accumulation phase. Now, let's hit the main topic. The surrender charge itself. Define it for us.
Okay, simply put, the surrender charge is a penalty fee. You pay it if you withdraw money from your annuity, or if you cash out, surrender the whole contract before a specific time window ends. That window is called the surrender period.
Right. Gainbridge, WIOCI, Investopedia, Bankrate, they all define it like that. It's the cost of getting out early.
Exactly.
So this surrender period, how long are we talking? Is it fixed? Does it vary a lot?
Yeah, this is where that long-term part really hits home. Gainbridge says typical periods are often maybe 5 to 10 years. Starts when you buy it or put money in.
5 to 10 years is still a while.
It is. But, and this is important, other sources like the MNAG, Investopedia, Smart Asset, they point out it can be shorter, sure, but it can also be much longer, sometimes over 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah. That MNAG report specifically flags concerns about annuities sold with 15-plus year deferrals. And they had a case, a real one, with a 16-year surrender period.
16 years? Wow.
Right.
That's a huge chunk of someone's life to have their money locked up like that.
It absolutely is. And how the fee works during that time is key, too. It's usually not just, say, 7% no matter when you leave.
Right. You mentioned it goes down over time.
Correct. It's typically highest right at the start, in year 1 or 2. Then it gradually decreases, maybe by 1% a year, or in steps, until it finally hits 0 at the very end of the surrender period. Gainbridge and WIOCI call it a sliding scale.
Can you give us an idea of what those sliding scales look like? Any common examples?
Sure. Gainbridge shows a couple of common ways it works. One is just a simple, straight decline like a linear scale. Maybe it starts at 7% in year 1, drops to 6% in year 2, 5% in year 3, and keeps going down by 1% each year until it's 0 after year 7.
Okay, straightforward enough. What about the other kind, the step down?
Right, the step-down schedule is a bit different. The charge might stay pretty high for the first few years, then maybe drop more significantly later on.
Okay.
Gainbridge gives an example, like maybe it's 9% in year 1, 8% year 2, 7% year 3, 6% year 4, 5% year 5, and then maybe it drops right down to 0 after that 5th year. The exact numbers are always spelled out in the contract itself.
Which is why reading that contract during the free look period is so crucial.
Absolutely vital.
That sliding scale definitely feels designed to keep you in, doesn't it? But you mentioned something about adding more money later. Sounded like a potential trap.
It really can be. Investopedia flags this, and it's easy to miss. If you have a contract where you can add more money over time, not just a single payment up front.
Right, a flexible premium annuity.
Exactly. Each new chunk of money you add might start its own surrender period.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes. So even if your first deposit is almost out of its surrender period, adding more money could mean that new money is locked up with a fresh, multi-year surrender charge clock.
That makes things way more complicated if you need access.
It definitely extends the time you could face penalties, potentially across different chunks of your money.
Okay, so we know what it is, how it works, even that adding money can restart the clock. But why? Why do insurance companies have these charges at all? What's their reasoning?
Well, the number one reason, mentioned by basically all the sources, Gainbridge, Investopedia, Bankrate, is to discourage you, the investor, from taking your money out early.
Okay, a disincentive.
Right. Annuities are built for the long term, for providing income way down the road, maybe for life. The surrender charge is like a financial wall built to stop people from messing with that long-term plan.
Like a moat around the castle, keeping the money inside.
Pretty much. It helps the company keep a stable pot of money to manage so they can actually pay out all those income promises later. But there's another big reason too, which is they help the company get back the money they spent setting up the contract in the first place. And a big part of that upfront cost. Often, it's the commission paid to the agent who sold you the annuity.
Ah, the commissions. And the sources said those can be pretty high sometimes.
They can be, yeah. The Minnesota Attorney General's office points this out specifically. They mention commissions potentially being as high as 10% for agents selling these long-term deferred annuities, especially to seniors.
10%? That's huge.
It is. So if the company pays out a big commission right away and then you cancel the contract a year later, they're out that money. The surrender charge helps them recover those initial costs, including those commissions, if the policy doesn't stick around long enough.
So it protects their investment in setting up the contract and covers their upfront costs, like commissions. That makes sense. But the sources were really clear that the actual financial hit, the true cost of getting out early, is way more than just that surrender charge.
That is absolutely critical to understand. Yes, Gainbridge, Smart Asset, Bank Rate, they all stress this. The surrender charge is just one piece of the puzzle. The other big costs usually involve taxes and potential IRS penalties.
Right, because the money inside the annuity, the growth, hasn't been taxed yet. It's been growing tax-deferred.
Correct. You got the benefit of growth without paying taxes each year. But when you pull money out of a non-qualified annuity early, before annuitization, the IRS has a rule. They say the earnings come out first for tax purposes.
Gains out first. LIFO, right. Last in, first out.
Exactly. LIFO applies here. So any money you withdraw up to the total amount your investment has grown is considered taxable income first before you touch your original principal.
And that gain gets taxed just like my salary, at my regular income tax rate.
Precisely. The sources concern that. The growth part of your withdrawal gets added to your other income for the year and taxed at ordinary income rates. Not capital gains rates, ordinary income rates, which can be higher.
Okay, so step 1. Pay the surrender charge to the company. Step 2, pay income tax to the IRS on the gains you pulled out. But wait, there's more, right, if you're under a certain age?
Yes, another layer. And this is a big one if you're under age 59 and a half. If you take money out before then, whether it's gains or even principal after gains are used up, the IRS usually hits you with an additional 10% tax penalty.
An extra 10%. On top of the regular income tax.
Yes, on top of the ordinary income tax you already owe on those withdrawn gains. Investopedia and others make that very clear.
Wow.
And Gainbridge points out that 59.5 rule is specifically for this 10% penalty, the income tax on the gains. You owe that regardless of your age when you withdraw.
And just to rub salt in the wound, you mentioned you can't even deduct the surrender charge you paid when figuring out those taxes.
That's right. Gainbridge notes that crucial detail. The surrender charge you pay the insurance company, not tax deductible. You can't use it to reduce your taxable income or the amount subject to that 10% penalty. It just lowers the cash you get back, but doesn't help your tax bill on the gains.
Let's make this real. Walk us through that Gainbridge example, the $120,000 cash value one. That really shows how it all adds up.
Okay, good idea. So imagine your annuity is worth $120,000 right now. You put in $100,000 originally, so you've got $20,000 in growth in gains.
Got it.
Now, life happens. You need to pull out the whole $120,000 early. You're still in the surrender period. Let's say the charge is 2% of the cash value.
Huh?
And importantly, you're under 59 and a half. And let's just say your income tax rate is 14%.
Okay, lay out the damage.
All right. First, the insurance company takes its cut, the surrender charge. 2% of $120,000 is $2,400. So minus $2,400 right off the top.
Ouch. Okay, what's next? Taxes.
Yep. IRS looks at it. LIFO rule. You have $20,000 in gains. So that $20,000 is taxable. And because you're under 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty on that taxable amount. 10% of $20,000 is another $2,000 gone. That's the penalty.
Minus $2,000 for the penalty. And you still owe regular tax on that $20,000 gain.
Still do. At our assumed 14% tax rate, 14% of $20,000 is another $2,800. That goes to the IRS as income tax.
Okay, let's add it up. Started with a $120,000 value, lost $2,400 to the surrender charge, $2,000 to the IRS penalty, and $2,800 in income tax.
That's the whole picture. Total costs. $2,400 plus $2,000 plus $2,800 equals $7,200. So your $120,000 cash value becomes $112,800 in your pocket after all that.
Wow, $7,200 vanished just to get your own money out early. That's almost 6% of the total value just gone. That really drives it home. Smart Asset had a simpler example too, right? Focusing just on the tax hit.
Yeah, they looked at something with $10,000 in gains in a 24% tax bracket under 59 and a half. Forget the surrender charge for a second. Just look at taxes. 24% income tax on $10,000 is $2,400. Plus the 10% penalty on the $10,000 gain is another $1,000. So that's $3,400 in taxes and penalties alone on a $10,000 gain.
These numbers make it very real. And you mentioned the Minnesota Attorney General had some actual heartbreaking examples.
They really do. It shows the human side of this. The MNAG report talks about a retired farmer, fixed income, needed about $24,000 from his annuities, basically his life savings for expenses. He got hit with $6,800 in surrender penalties.
Oh my God, that's over a quarter of what he needed, just gone in fees.
Yeah. Think about needing that money for food or medicine and having that much just disappear. It's rough. Another case was a woman sold an annuity with a 16-year surrender period. It would lock her money up until she was 95. If she needed it sooner, she faced a 17% penalty.
95. That seems incredibly unsuitable for someone likely needing funds before then.
Exactly. And the AG's office actually sued companies for selling these kinds of long deferral annuities, like 15 plus years, to people who probably wouldn't live that long or clearly would need the money for healthcare much sooner.
So there's a real ethical concern here, too, about who these products are being sold to.
A huge one. Selling something this illiquid, this long-term, to someone elderly or with foreseeable high expenses like long-term care, it raises serious questions about whether the sale was truly in their best interest, as regulations often require.
Okay, so the costs are clearly steep surrender fee plus taxes plus penalties can be brutal, which leads to the obvious question. Why do people even try to get out early knowing all this?
Because, like Smart Asset and Bankrate say, life happens. You plan for the long term with an annuity, but life doesn't always stick to the plan.
You can plan for retirement, sure, but you can't plan for everything.
Exactly. Unexpected things create urgent needs you just didn't see coming. Big medical bills your insurance doesn't cover, that's a common one, like in those MNAG cases.
Right.
Or losing your job, suddenly needing cash to live on. Or maybe needing to move into assisted living or a nursing home, which, as we know, costs a fortune. The AG specifically mentioned people needing funds for healthcare or assisted living.
So sometimes it's a genuine crisis, but are there other reasons someone might just regret buying it?
Yeah, unfortunately that happens too. Maybe the annuity just wasn't a good fit from the start. Maybe it was high-pressure sales tactics like the MNAG warns about, or maybe the agent didn't explain the downsides properly, especially about getting your money out.
Like the suitability issue we just touched on. Did the agent really look at your whole situation?
Right. The WIOCI talks about their best interest law, aiming to prevent unsuitable sales. But as the Minnesota examples show, it doesn't always work perfectly.
Or maybe the buyer just didn't understand it. These things are complex.
That's a huge factor. Annuities can be really complicated, with all the features, fees, surrender rules, tax implications. It's easy for a regular person to not fully grasp it all when they sign up, especially the long lockup period and the cost of leaving.
What about just poor performance? Could that make someone want out?
Bankrate mentions that too. If you discover the fees inside are higher than you thought, or it's just not growing like you expected compared to other options, you might start looking for the exit, even knowing it'll cost you.
Okay, so whether it's a crisis or buyer's remorse, sometimes people really need or want out early. Given how expensive surrendering is, what actual options do they have? What are the catches?
This is where it gets tricky. The options are few, and yeah, they all have catches. The most direct way, but often the costliest, is just biting the bullet and paying the surrender charge.
Which, as we saw, can be a huge hit when you add in taxes and penalties.
Exactly. It's straightforward. You pay the fee, you get the remaining money, minus taxes, penalties later, but potentially very damaging to your savings.
Is there any way to get some money out without paying the full charge on it?
Yes. Some contracts have a feature for limited free withdrawals. WIOCI, Smart Asset, Bankrate mentioned this. You can often take out a small percentage each year, maybe 10% of the account value, without triggering the surrender charge on that specific amount.
Okay, 10% free withdrawal sounds useful for smaller needs. But what's the catch?
The big catches are, it's limited, usually just 10% per year. If you need more than that, the amount over the limit gets hit with a surrender charge. And crucially, even if you avoid the surrender charge, you still owe income tax on any gains you withdraw, and maybe the 10% IRS penalty if you're under 59.5. It only dodges the company's fee, not the taxes.
Gotcha. So, okay, for small amounts, not for big emergencies, what about those crisis waivers you talked about?
Oh yes, crisis waivers. These are like potential escape hatches built into some contracts. Annuity.org has good detail, and Gainbridge, WIOCI, Bankrate mentioned them too. They let you get money out without the surrender charge, but only if specific, usually dire things happen.
Like what kind of things?
Really specific, serious stuff. Usually things like the owner dying, being hospitalized for a long time, going into a nursing home, getting a terminal illness diagnosis, becoming totally disabled, maybe even long-term unemployment in some cases. It's all spelled out in the contract.
And if one of those listed things happens, you avoid the surrender charge.
That's the idea. You can withdraw funds without the surrender charge. But, and this is super important, these waivers typically do not get you out of paying income tax on the gains, or the 10% IRS penalty if you're under 59.5. They just waived the insurance company's fee in that specific crisis.
Annuity.org mentioned they're different from riders. Can you explain that?
Yeah, good point. Annuities often have optional riders you can buy for extra benefits like guaranteed lifetime income or a bigger death benefit. Those add features while you're in the contract. Crisis waivers, even if structured like riders, function differently. They're an escape route out of the surrender charge under specific bad circumstances.
So like a nursing home waiver lets you avoid the fee if you go into one, but a long-term care rider might actually pay benefits towards the nursing home cost.
Exactly. Annuity.org uses that example. Waiver avoids the exit fee. A rider provides actual money for care. Very different functions. You can't rely on a waiver to pay for the care itself.
Are these waivers standard in every contract?
No, definitely not. Annuity.org points out that FNRI says they're not standard. You have to specifically check the contract or ask the agent if it's included. If having that kind of emergency exit is important, you need to make sure it's actually in there and understand exactly what triggers it.
Okay, so paying the charge, limited free withdrawals, crisis waivers, all have limits or costs. What about moving the money somewhere else, like another investment?
That brings us to the 1035 exchange. It's an IRS rule allowing you to swap one non-qualified annuity for another, or sometimes for life insurance, without paying income tax right now on the built-up gains. Gainbridge, WIOCI, Smart Asset, Bankrate all talk about this.
Sounds good. Avoid the immediate tax hit. What's the catch? It feels like there's always a catch.
The huge catch, stressed by everyone, is that while you dodge the current tax bill on the gains, you almost certainly start a new surrender period with the new annuity, and potentially new fees too.
So you just reset the clock. You could be locked up again for another 5, 7, 10 years with new surrender charges.
Exactly. A 1035 exchange doesn't usually eliminate surrender charges. It just kicks the can down the road and starts a new lockup period. It's not an escape. It's often just a restart. You have to compare the old and new contracts incredibly carefully. It might absolutely not be a good move, especially if the new surrender period is long.
What if someone just wants cash now and is willing to give up those future income payments? Any option there?
Yes, there is. Bankrate describes selling your future annuity payments. You basically sell the right to receive that stream of income checks to a third-party company. They give you a lump sum of cash today instead.
Like selling a structured settlement.
Very similar idea. The downside, you get less cash today than the total amount of those future payments. The buying company applies a discount rate, basically, the price you pay for getting the money now instead of spread out over years.
And you give up the guaranteed income stream you bought the annuity for in the first place?
Precisely. You trade long-term income security for immediate cash. Bankrate advises shopping around if you do this, trying to get the best discount rate, because it makes a big difference in how much cash you actually get.
It really sounds like none of these options are easy or cheap. It seems the only way to truly avoid the surrender charge itself is just to wait.
Is just to wait it out, yeah. Smart Asset, Investopedia, Bankrate all say that's the most direct way to avoid the fee. If you can possibly hold on until the surrender period in your contract officially ends, could be 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, then the charge drops to zero. You can access the funds or start income then without that specific company penalty.
But even then, after waiting out the surrender period, you still have the tax issue, right? And the penalty if you're young.
Correct. Good clarification. Waiting avoids the insurance company's surrender charge. It does not avoid taxes. Any gains you withdraw, even after the surrender period, are still taxed as ordinary income. And if you're under 59 and a half, you still face that 10% IRS penalty on the gains.
This whole conversation just screams illiquid. This money is really tied up during that surrender time.
It absolutely is. Investopedia, Smart Asset, Bankrate hammer this home. Deferred annuities during the surrender period are illiquid investments. Full stop. Don't put money in them if you think you might need it for emergencies, short-term goals, anything within that lockup window. Getting it out early is, as we've seen, costly and complicated.
Which loops us right back to suitability, doesn't it? Is this product right for you?
Yes. Suitability keeps coming up, especially from regulators like WIOCI and the MNAG. You, the listener, have to ask, does this long lockup fit my needs, my goals, my time frame, especially if you're older, nearing, or in retirement? A 15-year surrender period might make no sense then. Regulations like Wisconsin's best interest law try to ensure agents do this assessment, but you need to do your own homework too.
Is there any way to change your mind right after buying it if you get cold feet?
Thankfully, yes. There's the free look period. WIOCI and Bankrate highlight this.
Yeah.
After you get the actual contract document, you usually have a window, maybe 10 days, maybe 30 days, depends on the state and contract, to read everything carefully.
Okay.
If you decide during that free look period, nope, this isn't for me, you can cancel it and get your premium back, usually in full, with no surrender charge.
That sounds like a critically important window to use. Read the fine print then.
Absolutely. Use that time. Understand the surrender schedule for your specific contract. One warning, though. If you funded it with a 1035 exchange and then cancel during the free look, the old company might not take your old policy back.
What about once the income payments actually start? Can you get the principal back then?
Generally, no. Bankrate says once you annuitize, start taking the income stream, you've usually traded your lump sum for those guaranteed payments. You typically can't just stop the payments and ask for the remaining principal back.
And those future payments are only as good as the company paying them, right?
Exactly. WIOCI stresses this. The long-term safety depends on the insurance company staying financially strong. They suggest checking independent ratings, AM Best, Moody's, S&P, and knowing about state guarantee funds, though those have limits.
And if things go wrong, if you feel misled or can't get answers, where do you go?
The sources point to regulatory bodies. The MNAG mentions the SEC, FINERA, and state attorneys general. WIOCI points to the state departments of insurance. If the agent or company isn't helpful or you suspect something's wrong, contact your state insurance department or AG's office. They're there to help.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've really dug into annuity surrender charges, getting out early, possible maybe through a few routes, but almost always comes with a significant financial hit.
Yeah, it's not just the company's fee. It's that fee potentially combined with income tax on your gains and maybe that extra 10% IRS penalty. Together, they can take a really big chunk out of your money.
Key takeaways then. Annuities are long-term. That illiquidity during the surrender period. It's a feature, not a bug from the insurer's view. Always, always understand the surrender period length and the fee schedule before you sign anything.
And please, don't put money you might need soon into one of these. It's just not the right place for emergency funds or short-term savings. Know about the potential escape hatches like free withdrawals or crisis waivers, but understand their limits. Free withdrawals are small, waivers are for specific crises, and don't stop taxes.
And be super careful with 135 exchanges. They might defer tax, but they often just restart that surrender clock, locking you in again.
Exactly.
For you, the listener, trying to stay informed, the complexity, the potential costs, especially these surrender charges, they just highlight how crucial it is to do your homework, ask tough questions, and really understand the deal before you commit. Why care? Because getting this right can save you from potentially huge losses if life takes an unexpected turn. It ensures your investments actually match your goals and life's realities.
Well said.
So here's something to think about, a final thought to mull over after this deep dive. Given how expensive it is to get out early, how long those surrender periods can be, and how fees, taxes, and penalties can pile up, does that promise of future guaranteed income truly outweigh losing so much flexibility and facing potential financial punishment if your life changes before that income even starts? What due diligence steps does this make absolutely non-negotiable for you before you'd ever consider locking up your money like this?
That's the core question, isn't it? Balancing that future guarantee against present flexibility and risk.
Think about that. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive into annuity surrender charges.